Welcome. In the last video lecture, we have discussed about electricity pricing, what actually is electricity pricing, the factors affecting electricity pricing, and we have also seen the list of the different factors which result in volatility in electricity pricing. So in detail, in this video lecture, we will see about the factors which contribute to volatility in electricity prices and in particular electricity markets. And also we will try to have some simple problems on computation of volatility in electricity pricing. I hope that by the end of this video lecture you will be able to describe the factors which contribute to price volatility and also compute volatility in electricity markets. So I'll start with the sources of volatility and then we will discuss about the factors resulting in price volatility in detail. So you might be wondering about what the word is, this volatility word is all about, right? Normally in electricity markets, right now we will be paying a very fixed price because we are in the bilateral markets where the prices are dictated by the government. So for the consumers, the electricity prices may remain very stagnant. But if you are in the electrical industry and if you are purchasing power from the pool, particularly from the pool, then if you can see the commonly heard expressions in electricity markets, particularly in the pools, is that volatility of electricity prices has been high during the period of January and February, and EX market will create an environment with volatile pricing because in a bilateral contract the prices may remain stagnant, they remain steady for a longer duration of time, whereas in pool markets it depends upon the demand and supply. So, and also the annualized volatility, this is what you will be hearing in statistics, and as I said, this is the primary and important thing which you will be hearing all the time in electricity markets, that electricity markets are highly volatile. The prices are we are unable to understand why these prices are varying widely. So these terms and these expressions are commonly heard in electricity markets, in pool markets. So what actually is price volatility then? So price volatility is nothing but it is a measure of instability in future prices or uncertainty in the future price movements. So normally if you are able to predict the electricity properly, then automatically what happens? Volatility is used to analyze different hedging strategies and portfolios. So if you are properly able to forecast the prices, then automatically you can invest in electricity markets on a large scale. The variation or instability in the prices depends upon different factors which we have already listed out. We'll discuss them in detail in the coming slides. And if you carefully see, the volatility is time dependent. In this last slide of video lecture, we have seen that it depends upon the duration of the day, it depends upon the season of the year. So mostly it is time dependent. So that's fine. It could reflect the value of electricity derivatives such as futures and options. And even though this electricity price is very volatile, we can, based upon the large data which we do have for the past 50 or 60 years, we can identify that there are certain patterns and rules pertaining to market volatility. And if we are good enough, if we are efficient enough, we can employ the last 50 or 60 years data. We can identify those patterns and these historical price movements. Based upon that, we can forecast the future prices. And if it is successfully happened, then automatically we can invest in electricity markets. So it's all about understanding, first of all, why the electricity prices are varying very widely. So in this video lecture, we will have a quick discussion about the different sources of volatility. As you all know, broadly speaking, All these do come under three categories. One is volatility from the supply side, volatility from the demand chain, supply chain, demand chain, and maybe because of the unexpected outages in the transmission system. So these three areas, they are responsible for huge variation in the prices of electricity. As already discussed, the demand in turn depends upon the weather, meteorological conditions, what we call it as. And it also depends upon seasonal occasions, time of the day, and season of the year. And supply, it depends upon the fuel. And in turn, fuel also sometimes depend upon weather also. And right now the fuel prices are depending upon so many escalations between the wars, right? So there are so many factors which do affect the supply also. Now, outages, there may be two types of outages, forced outages and scheduled outages. Normally, why do we experience any outage in a Gen core transformer? Maybe because it is overloaded for a longer duration, or maybe because of a cyclone or storm or something like that. So normally outages will be due to weather, or maybe due to overloading for a longer duration of time, or maybe there is a sudden fault which is happening in the system. Any of these will result in an outage, unscheduled outage, and immediately the prices may go up. So we will, as you can see, the broad three classes of supply, demand, and demand, supply, and unexpected outages. They do have their own reasons for this price volatility. So we will discuss in detail. As already said, we'll quickly recap: load uncertainty, fuel prices, irregularity in hydroelectricity production, and unplanned outages, constrained transmission, what we call it as transmission congestion, and lastly, market power. We will see how these factors, they result in price volatility. And finally, the market participants also. And the first one, load uncertainty. You know that this comes under the class of demand. As we have seen, there are three classes. One is supply, the other one is demand, and the other one is outages. Right? So this comes under demand category. You know that the demand is primarily dependent on weather, directly correlated to the weather, and weather is unpredictable in nature. So that's why demand is also most of the times unpredictable in nature. So let us suppose, particularly in the last some 4 or 5 months back, the summer in Europe was very high. The temperatures were scorching. The heat wave was spreading all across the Europe. So during that time, everybody wanted so many ACs in their homes. They wanted cooler temperatures. So the electricity consumption has reached the peaks. So due to unexpected temperature changes, especially from low to high, the actual load could be at times very different from the forecasted load. This happened suddenly, never happened in the past 50 years. A sudden heat wave appearing across the Europe. So since there is uncertainty in weather, the loads also can become uncertain. And we can't forecast the loads. Even though forecasting of loads is being done, it is always uncertain. So one option is to consider a higher demand than predicted. So if you start considering that maybe some 20% exceeding than the forecast, then automatically what happens? You must keep these units ready. So automatically what happens? The electricity market prices may increase because we don't have any storage facilities. We are predicting that the 100 megawatts. So some margin, let us suppose if I keep 20% margin. So how much your generation must be ready? 120 megawatts. So normally you are employing only 100, 20% you are keeping as margin. But these units are ready, they must be ready, right? So for keeping them ready, you do require large amount of money. So this money again, it will reflect in your electricity pricing. So that's why this uncertainties Sometimes people will keep 30%, 50%, 60%. If you go on increasing the percentage of margin, the prices will be going up because it reflects. And that's why errors in load forecasts and load scheduling, these are the major reasons for price swings, or what we call it as volatility. The second thing is, we will have a quick look about results of errors in load forecast. So, as already said, when the actual load is considerably more than the forecasted load, what happens? Online generation may be inadequate to serve the load. If the actual load is less than the forecasted load, then the problem is why you have maintained so much amount of reserve power. Then that will be the question. If the actual load is considerably more than the forecasted load, what will happen? Online generation may be inadequate. So again, you are supposed to run for reserve power, or maybe you are supposed to curtail some loads. Okay, so these type of problems do happen when there is an error in the load forecast. And next is the second one is fuel prices. As already said, most of the plants still now we are employing thermal plants only, and they do require large amount of fuel. One is coal run plants, the other one is a gas plants, and some people they do employ diesel plants also. But the fuel, if it varies, the price of fuel if it varies, then automatically the price of electricity also will be varying, isn't it? So the fuel used by generating units to produce electricity is a volatile commodity. Now, as already has given example, due to the escalating war tensions in Europe, the prices are prime. The prices are being driven to very high peaks. Gas is not available in the market right now at cheaper prices. So this in turn is increasing the electricity price. Okay. Now, fossil fuel, hydro, nuclear, unconventional sources of energy could be used in generating electricity with different costs, which are reflected on electricity prices. When marginal generating units use a certain type of fuel with fluctuating price, automatically what happens? The electricity price also could fluctuate. Other types of fuels may not have this much amount of impact. Okay, coal will be available all the time, most of the time in the countries, but gas and diesel are one big things which are not available in all the countries. So that's why what we should do, we should give priority to these things which are available in your own country. So then you can consider reducing the variations in fuel prices. Next is irregularity in hydroelectricity production. You know that hydropower is the cheapest power which is so far available. And apart from renewable energy also, I'll agree that solar energy nowadays in the last 5 years also, the cost of solar energy is decreasing. The price per unit of solar energy is also decreasing at a very faster level. So, in some regions, hydroelectricity is produced rather inexpensively in certain times of the year due to the availability of water resources. See, in our state also, we do have Srisalem project, Nalansar project. During rainy seasons, a huge amount of water will be flowing through these reservoirs, isn't it? So, there will be a simultaneous electricity generation. So, this simultaneous electricity generation, now we are not spending too much amount of money here. The water is coming, it is flowing through these reservoirs and dams. There, as a byproduct, we are generating electricity. So, this cost of generation of electricity is very low. During this time, what you should do? You should stop your thermal plants, which give you a higher price of generation, and you should run your hydroelectricity. So, if you feel that it is a regular thing happening every once in a year or twice in a year in a fixed duration, then automatically you can schedule your thermal plants maintenance. But let us suppose if suddenly rains do not appear in the month of June and July, where you are highly relying on them, then automatically what happens? There is an acute shortage of electricity. So this will in turn create huge prices. Or let us suppose if there is a winter season or summer season itself, you do have too much amount of rains and there is an abundant water availability, then again the prices will be going down, isn't it? So that's fine. Irregularity in hydroelectricity production, it will affect the price of electricity. Now, the next one is unplanned outages. You know that unplanned outages, this comes under the third category of outages, where the imbalance between the supply and demand it could cause huge fluctuations in the prices. When supply is less than demand, or when demand is changing rapidly, the price spikes could arise. And let us suppose, I would like to mention outages. I am speaking about Genco outages here. If the supply is too low, and again there is an outage, automatically what happens? There will be a spike in the demand. Simple law of economics, electricity economics, right? Now, when the system load goes on increasing, load is increasing, and if your generation is not sufficient, what you will do then immediately? What you will go to the generating plants, which may not be affordable for you, but since your demand is very high, you are supposed to run these high cost running plants also, maybe gas fired plants. So all these plants generally they do require huge amount of fuel, so the price of electricity may be very high. But since you are supposed to meet your demand, you may be asking those high expensive units also to generate electricity. This will again result in increase in prices. And next is constrained transmission, which we have discussed in the last video lecture. Let us suppose if there is only one transmission line, and if everybody wants to use that transmission facility, if ISO is there, he will provide you. But if ISO is not available, if they say that whoever wins a bid, he is supposed to pay, then the person who pays higher for this transmission facility, he may get this resource. If he is paying high for this resource, automatically this will get reflected in electricity pricing, isn't it? So that is a concept of constrained transmission. This will happen when transmission capability is insufficient to withstand scheduled flows. So congestion paths will play an important role in determining the electricity prices. Next is market power. This we have discussed in number 1, where group of people may exhibit horizontal market power. So let us suppose there is X1, X2 and X3. These people, they'll sum up generation. These are Gencos. Normally, let us suppose if he is supplying at 2 rupees, he is supplying at 3 rupees, he is supplying at 4 rupees. Let us suppose if these three guys, if they club with each other, then automatically they can create a monopoly in the market. And if say sell power at 10 rupees also, we are supposed to buy. So this type of power is called as horizontal market power. And this exercising of market power will result in high prices of electricity. Okay. So to avoid this type of things, normally what we do is nothing but we do hedge the things. So we know that while the volatility in prices could cause large losses, it could also sometimes cause large profits also. If the prices are very low, then automatically you may get benefited with them. So financial contracts would enable participants to adjust exposures to volatility and to limit the level of risks. And the most commonly used electricity contracts are futures and forward contracts. That we will see in the next video lectures. I hope now you have understood market power exercising also will increase the price of electricity. And finally, market participants. Okay. So market participants themselves may create price volatility in one of two ways. One is either by misrepresenting the actual amount of their loads or by performing gaming practices. This is what we call it as market power. Okay, second one is called as market power. In the first type, what they do is nothing but participants either under schedule or over schedule the loads. In the second case, what they do, they will do some sort of market power exercise. In either of these cases, both cases would require a response from the ISO in the imbalance energy markets. So if there is any under scheduled load which has not been scheduled earlier but now it is being scheduled, so suddenly what happens? The demand increased. So what will happen? It will change the price of energy in the imbalance markets. If the resources are available, then okay. If the resources are not available, generation resources, and suddenly a load appears suddenly, then the prices will shoot to the max. So I hope now you have understood what these things are, and we will see this measuring of volatility shortly.